If you're visiting Walt Disney World, chances are you've got some kids with you, right? And traveling with kids, especially if you're doing it for the first time, comes with a unique set of challenges. You're trying to figure out how to do this thing, they're trying to figure out what's going on. And so today I want to talk about 5 tips that I think you need to know if you're a parent visiting Walt Disney World or any other major theme park. You know, this also applies to Universal, wherever else. And while we discuss these 5 things, we're gonna do a little bit of wandering. You know, the other day, while we were talking about tipping here in the state of Florida, we were on this path that runs between Epcot and Hollywood Studios. Today, we're on a path that runs between the TTC, which is the Magic Kingdom parking lot, and Magic Kingdom. It's a great path, though a little bit of a walk if you wanna make your way over to Magic Kingdom. Still, it's a great option if you like to stroll like I do, you want to have a more casual vacation. You can pick it up at the TTC by walking all the way past security. And then there's going to be a crosswalk over the road. And if you keep following that path, boom, you're here at the Poly. And if we stay on this path, we'll end up over at the Magic Kingdom. In fact, if I turn this way, there's the ferry boats. So it's like super close, very convenient. We've got the bungalows here. It's a nice walk. All right, so let's jump into this list of 5 things. We're starting off strong with number 1. No, your kids, they can't hold it. Like I said, starting off strong right out the gate. This is one that I see play out in the parks all the time. And it's unfortunate because, you know, your kids, they're doing their best, all right? And I know the parents are doing their best too, which is why this is a tricky one. But number 1, it can be a little bit harder to find bathrooms than you think. And then of course there are always the lines. And as parents, or just adults in general, we can get overwhelmed, we can get overstimulated and lose track of time really easily. I mean, I do it, I'm sure that you guys do it. You might not even realize it unless you're in a situation like this. So I think it's important to keep that in mind, make sure that you're accommodating for the needs of your little ones. You know, they might have to use the restroom. Make, you know, tactical bathroom break stops. On Bluey, they call it a tactical wee. Do that when you're at the theme parks because, you know, sometimes 2 minutes can turn into an hour and you don't even realize it. And then, you know, there's all the things that come with accidents, which happen regardless, you know, so it's always good to have a plan, bring a change of clothes with you. And most importantly, when accidents happen, don't take it out on the little one. There's no need for that. So we've made our way to the far end of the Polynesian, which is the new DVC Island Tower, and it's telling us to go this direction in order to get to Magic Kingdom, so that's what we're gonna do. This is my first time taking this path since the Island Tower opened up, so I don't know what I'm in for. We'll kind of figure it out together. I think I'll hold my opinions for the next time that we visit. Does that sound good? We'll make a trip out just for this purpose. Anyway, following the arrows. So let's keep moving and talk about tip number 2. Use the tools that you need when you're on vacation. It doesn't matter what those tools are, and it certainly isn't up to other people to decide what tools are right for you and your family, especially not when you're traveling. This is actually a really appropriate time to talk about this because the path, like the well-established path that we were on to walk to Magic Kingdom, just completely dumped us into the parking lot for the Island Tower, which is right there. And you know, if you're doing this with kids, wandering around a parking lot, you might need a little help, especially if you have multiple kids or if you have a kid that's a runner. I've traveled to Disney World with a kid that's a runner, and let me tell you, whew, it is a lot. So using tools like a stroller, even if your kid is too old for a stroller, or one of those leash things, you know, like they wear a little harness or a backpack and you hold on to them so that they stay within a very specific range, or whatever the tool. You know, especially the tools that you're going to be heavily criticized for using for one reason or another. There's always someone who has something to say. And you know what? It's not up to them. It's up to what's right for you and what's going to keep you and your kid safe and secure. Also, You know, it's gonna keep you guys comfortable. This is especially true when I hear people criticize parents for having a kid that's, you know, too big for a stroller. There's no such thing. If they fit, they fit. And you can be pulling a lot of miles during a Disney vacation or any type of theme park vacation. So why wouldn't you want everyone to be comfortable? You know, so use the tools that are right for you. Also, as a little bit of a side note, as I made my way down the path to right here through the parking lot, the sign said that this path will take you to the Grand Ceremonial House, actually, or the Great Ceremonial House. You can see the sign right there. So maybe we could have taken this path? I don't know. We'll work it out during our next trip. One way or another, it's a little bit confusing, but the Polynesian is now behind us. We're headed for the Grand Floridian and our next tip. So tip number 3, from a very noisy area surrounding the wedding pavilion, is understand that your kids can't regulate their body temperature in the same way that we can. And of course, your kids can't communicate in the same way that we can, especially when they're little. This is one of those things that you learn when you work with children, but it's not necessarily communicated to parents as much as it should be, which is why we're here, because this is something that I definitely think you need to know, particularly if you're going to be visiting a place like Florida where it's hot. So here's what you need to know. Here's what you need to especially take into consideration if you're going to be visiting when it's hot, even when it's not super hot and you have little ones. Like I said, those little ones can't regulate their body temperature on their own, not in the same way that we can, but more importantly, they can't communicate in the same way that older kids or adults can. Which is why, especially for little ones, crankiness sometimes gets brushed off as just that, being cranky. But it can actually be them saying, hey, I need a little bit of help cooling off. So what do you need to do in order to make that happen? There are some obvious choices, you know, find some shade, go into a place where you can get some AC, depending on their age, you know, give them a cold drink, make sure that they stay hydrated throughout the day. That's really important. But things that people don't necessarily take into consideration is, especially related to shoes, taking those shoes off, making sure that those feet can breathe. I know that that sounds kind of silly, but it's one of the many points on the body that can, like, it can hold heat and it can help you cool off. So getting those shoes and socks off, that's a great choice. Also, focusing your attention with you know, a cold compress or whatever you're trying to use to cool your little ones or yourself down on the areas of your body where you're going to find arteries. I know this might sound a little bit silly, but you know, on your neck, your wrists, between your legs, like the groin area, the feet. Knowing this little tidbit changes everything, especially if you're traveling with kids or you're someone who overheats rather easily. Just taking that cold compress and focusing on these major arteries helps recirculate that coolness throughout the whole body, and it cools you down much quicker. So it's definitely something that I recommend you just keep up there in your noggin and make your go-to strategy for trying to cool down when you're in the parks, whether it's you, your kids, just a good tip to know. Also, another really important one that gets overlooked all the time, especially with the culture that is visiting Walt Disney World right now, the strategy that a lot of people have is utilize attraction cues. I know that we always want to skip the line. We don't want to wait, but especially in the heat of summer, sometimes waiting in a standby queue for 30 minutes, an hour can be a good way to cool down, especially for certain attractions. Those indoor attractions that have air conditioning, this is a lifesaver. I do it all the time. And I know no one wants to hear wait in the line, but you might be surprised. You know, you wait in a little bit of a longer line and you can stay in the park longer because you don't overheat as fast. That's another thing to take into consideration. Really quick though, I know I did show you the Grand Floridian there a second ago. We have since departed and now we're on our final stretch over to Magic Kingdom. And so it's time for another tip. Number 4, I think this is number 4. Bring food, bring snacks or light meals. And look, I know what you're thinking. I did not go on vacation to make peanut butter sandwiches or eat Uncrustables or cheese crackers, whatever the case. Look, I hear you and I get it. I want special things when I'm on vacation too. And no one's saying that you can't have those special things, but especially if you're traveling with little ones, it's nice to have familiar favorites. And this isn't just because, you know, they want cheese crackers when they want cheese crackers and they want their cheese crackers. They're very specific about that, though that is also sometimes true. But also, sometimes you can't get a snack when your little one needs a snack. You're in line for the bus. You're somewhere in Disney Springs and there's no Uncrustables in sight. You know, so you have to feel out your little one, know if this is something that would help them, and decide what exactly the snack you should pack should be. But you can bring food, so you might as well take advantage of that and use this as an opportunity to reduce stress on you and on your little one. And you know what? Maybe save a little bit of money. I mean, that's a win too. All right, we're in the home stretch now. We've got the boat dock just beyond this curve. We're gonna have security. I'm gonna pop on through and I'll see you on the other side. All right, we're through security and officially at Magic Kingdom. So here's our last tip. Practice. Now, I know what you're thinking. Hold on, how do I practice for a major theme park vacation? I don't have money to be doing a ton of vacations. You don't have to. There are a lot of things that you do day to day that are very similar to what you're gonna encounter when you're at the theme parks. Things like going to the grocery store on the weekend, or having to stand in line at Target, doing a lot of walking at your local park, or any number of other activities. Taking some time to do these things and practice them with your kids or your other family members that you're going to be traveling with is a huge help at not only knowing what to expect, but also preparing for when things go wrong, or for those things that don't go as smoothly as you hoped they would. I know we've kind of talked about this in the past, but things like packing the stroller that you're planning on traveling with, packing your day bag, seeing if you can handle that much weight on your back for a walk around the park. Navigate that day bag, make sure it's set up just right so you're not fumbling while you're here. All of these things seem relatively minor when you're thinking about them at home, but when you put them all together, you get yourself a theme park vacation. So if you figure out how to navigate all of this before you get here, it'll be second nature once you do, and it won't be as much of a learning experience in the park on vacation. So definitely practice. But yeah, I think that's about all. We've gone over 5 things that I think parents need to know, some tips, if you will, and I hope that I've covered as many bases as I could. Of course, I probably missed some things, so if you have any tips for parents visiting the theme parks, pop them in the comments. Enjoy the rest of your day wherever it is you are, and be sure to join us next time, okay? Until then, bye.